Classical music mastermind Benjamin Zander, in his 2008 TED Talk titled The Power of Our Words, recounts the heartbreaking and sad story of an Auschwitz survivor and her brother. This is a story of a woman, one of the few survivors from Auschwitz concentration camp. She was taken to Auschwitz when she was just 15 years old and her brother was 8. They were taken away from their homes to the railway station to be taken to the concentration camp. Their parents were also taken to some other concentration camp. As a 15-year-old girl, she recalled being herded onto a train with other Jewish children. Now, as the train began to move, she noticed that one of the shoes of her little brother was missing. It probably fell off while being pushed into the waiting train. The girl, filled with sadness of separation and fear of the unknown, was annoyed to see the missing shoe on her brother's foot. In anger, she twisted his ears and she said, "Why are you so stupid? How can you be so callous? Can't you keep your things together for goodness sake?" Few minutes later, as they arrived at the concentration camp, the brother and sister were separated by the Nazi soldiers at the camp. Unfortunately, it was the last thing she ever said to her little brother because she never ever saw him again. He probably died soon after at the gas chamber. She said, "I reprimanded him over something as inconsequential as a lost shoe. It's the biggest regret of my life. My last words to my brother were words of anger and disappointment." And so, when she came out of Auschwitz, she made a commitment to herself and said, "I walked out of Auschwitz into life and I made a vow that I will never say anything that couldn't stand as the last thing I ever say to someone." She concluded, "I've tried to live the remainder of my life carefully choosing the words I speak to the people just in case they are my last words." Friends, on my visit to the concentration camp, my heart just ached as I approached the same gates that she and so many people before me had walked in, but never walked out again. Train tracks stretched out to the main gates towards the barracks and the gas chambers. I heard chilling stories of how upon arrival a selection would take place where those deemed healthy enough to work were registered for forced labor and those who weren't were taken to the chambers and murdered immediately. It broke my heart to hear the sad stories of children screaming and pleading to be kept together. Their brother or sister was all they had left. But the German guards broke the last link in the chain. I found that utterly brutal. Being separated from your parents or siblings is a horrible feeling. It's something very difficult for us to ever comprehend. My visit to the concentration camp, coupled with this touching story recounted by Benjamin Zander, has left an enduring impact on my life. I too made a vow that I will never ever say anything that couldn't stand as the last thing I ever say to someone. As I leave home every morning to work, I am conscious of what I say as I leave, knowing that these words may be my last words. I look into the eyes of my children and mean what I say as I depart from them each day, regardless of my disposition. If we treat our conversation as if they matter and as if they may be the last, then we will be more conscious of what we say. We never know if the words we say to someone will be the last words we ever say to that person. The words we speak to one another are incredibly powerful tools that we shouldn't take for granted. Words have power. They can destroy and create. Sometimes a single word can change everything. Words are singularly the most powerful force available to humanity. We can choose to use this force constructively with words of encouragement or destructively using words of anger and despair. In fact, words can potentially harm a person for far longer and cause far more pain than any physical attack they can endure. Friends, The last thing the 15-year-old Jewish girl at the concentration camp ever said to her 8-year-old brother were words showing displeasure and disappointment for having lost his shoe. We never know when our parting conversation will be the last word we say to each other. Each word that we use can have colossal impact. A word at first glance may seem inconsequential, but never think of the words as actually inconsequential. Instead, think of them as powerful. Can we make this as a promise for ourselves? Tomorrow is never guaranteed to anyone. Don't wait to tell people you love them. You will never regret saying it too often, but you will regret not saying it at all.